How We Spend Our Days is How We Spend Our Lives by Annie Dillard. So today's show is all about positive psychology meets ambitious procrastination. And we can lose so much of our time worrying about what we're doing, worrying about what we're not doing, thinking that we're behind, thinking that it's too late. And I wanted us today to take a breath and go back to the 5 pillars of what it means to live a good life. Not a perfect life, not even an ambitious life, but a life that brings us joy. Joy, happiness, grace, peace, whatever word resonates to you and ignites this idea that you're living and creating a life that fills you up, that brings out the best in you. And as I say before, when we can show up as our best selves, we can light the way for others. So back over a decade, well over a decade now, I went back to school for positive psychology, which is the science of what it means to create a life where we can flourish and thrive. So, as we dive deeper into these podcast episodes about matching our ambition with our actions and our action to the person we have yet to become, I thought it'd be a good time to touch on the 5 pillars of what it means to create a life where we can flourish and thrive, not just survive. These 5 pillars allow us to ride the ups and downs of life. As we know, life is never steady state. Life is what happens to us when we are busy making plans. But when we can take the time to strengthen these 5 pillars, it will enable us to celebrate the good times without waiting for the shoe to drop. And in the not so good times, it'll give us the skills and the resources and the tools and the strengths that lie inside of us to know that this too shall pass. And I do have the ability to get to the other side, however difficult that might be. So there's an acronym in positive psychology called PERMA. P stands for positive emotion. E stands for engagement. R stands for relationships. M is for meaning, and A is for accomplishments. And in this show, I want to touch on each of those and also do a little play on how we can balance this idea of doing with this idea of being. We are human beings, but we often feel guilty if we are not human doings 24/7, especially if our actions are not matching our ambition. So, the question I'm going to pose to you at the beginning of our time together is not, are you happy or sad? But as you listen to these 5 pillars and some action steps that we can do to strengthen them, what is one step you could take each day to become 1% happier, 1% more joyful, 1% more fulfilled? We live in a land of this or that, success or failure, ambition or not driven, worthy or worth less. And so this is not about the all or nothing, the black or white, but what can we do in small daily habits that stacked over time build the odds in our favor? So let's look at the first of those pillars. P is for positive emotion. How can we build more positive emotion into our day? And it is a choice. Every day we get up, we get to choose. Where our attention goes, our life flows. And again, how we spend our days is how we spend our life. So let's build a good one. When it comes to positive emotion, a lot of us might go to the word gratitude, which is a wonderful word, but it's more so about looking back on our life and or back on the day. What are the things that we are grateful for that have already happened? But Martin Seligman has encouraged us to also look forward. When we can look forward to a day that has yet to be with an anticipation and a positive mindset, that's when the magic tends to happen. Tal Ben Shahar, my mentor, says, appreciate the good and the good will appreciate. So this week, I invite you every morning before your feet hit the floor and you're in bed, write down 3 things that you are looking forward to that day. It could be a cup of coffee. It could be the sunrise if you're up that early. Or if you're more like me, it could be the sunset. It could be a phone call with a dear friend. It could be diving into work that excites you. 3 things that you are looking forward to that day. What that does, it's called reticular activation. Yes, I said a fancy word. Think back to the last time you bought a car. Let's say it was a white Mini. And you've not really seen any minis on the road, but the minute you're thinking about your white mini, what do you see? Either minis or white cars, because our brain tends to attract what it is focused on. So when we can start our day with a mindset of all that is good, it's going to attract more good to us. So when it comes to positive emotion and procrastination, one thing that we can do is just be aware through the lens of self-appreciation and discovery, not the lens of self-judgment, is to look at the areas of our life where we tend to procrastinate and see if it is active procrastination or passive procrastination. Passive procrastination is when we're just losing time, we're scrolling, consuming versus creating. But active procrastination, when we deliberately pause and delay, either because we don't think we're ready or we need to get more data, it allows room for creativity and possibility to enter. There is nothing wrong in being bored. I actually encourage us all to allow more room for boredom to step in, because boredom can be a gateway for great thinking, great ideas. But if we are mindlessly and passively procrastinating by always being on our phone or always looking what everybody else is doing, that's when we actually get in the way of our own happiness and positive emotion. E is for engagement. How engaged are we in our own life? How engaged are we with those around us? Now more than ever, I believe the ability to focus deeply, do the deep, meaningful work, and be fully engaged and immersed in pockets of time. We are humans. This is not going to be like, I'm going to now be fully engaged in my life for the next 18 hours that I'm awake. That's impossible. But how can we strengthen our mind and our focus to be deeply engaged more often than not? This is a case of living your life versus being on the sidelines and just kind of wandering through the day. And then we get to the end of our day, as Annie Dillard says, how we spend our days is how we spend our life. And how many times do we get to the end of our day and go, I don't even remember. What did I do 5 seconds ago? Or do you ever, like me, go and do something and you're about to get on the computer or open a book or get to your phone and you're like, why am I here? The more present we can be in this moment and the next moment, the more fully engaged we are in our life and the more joy and positivity and goodness we can suck out of it, we can then show others, those that you love, your children, what a fully engaged, vibrant life looks and feels like. When we are engaged in our life, time tends to disappear. And I talk about this a lot, the power of flow, being fully engaged in the task of hand versus multitasking or context switching, going from this email to that book, to this phone call, to that text. But the more we can be engaged and in flow and let time disappear, the more ability we have to be in the moment, create great, meaningful work, appreciate this moment, be in the power of who we are without comparing ourselves to somebody else. And when we are in flow, our path to mastery speeds up. As time slows down, our path to learning and growing and adapting actually increases. So when it comes to procrastination and engagement, one of the things that can really trip us up, especially if we are an ambitious procrastinator, is when we are engaged in what other people are doing. We start comparing what we're doing to others. And you've heard me say it before, I call it procrasti-learning. We are engaging in the wrong things instead of engaging in things that we have control over. So today I invite you to take time throughout your day and just simply notice, like, when you are being engaged in the wrong things. I put wrong in air quotes here, but things that pull you off your path, things that pull you away from your creativity, your strengths, whatever it is that you are meant to be building in this world. Yes, use others always for inspiration, but never for comparison. And those moments when you feel yourself starting to be disengaged with your life and engaged with the wrong things, I invite you to stop. S, stand up, change your point of view. T, take a walk, even if it's just to another room or around the block, or get outside on your balcony. Oh, pause and observe your surroundings using all your senses. Really be in the moment. And for 1 minute, just really pay attention to what is happening in front of you, being engaged for 1 minute with what is happening. And then P, pick either a positive thought or a reframe. And one that I really love to use is the question to myself, where am I? Where am I? Whose life am I in? Am I living my life or am I watching somebody else's life? Once again, how we spend our day is how we spend our life. So we have P for positive emotion, E for engagement. Now, R is relationships. Maybe you've heard of the golden rule, treat others as you would like to be treated. Then there's the platinum rule. Actually, no, treat others as they would like to be treated because their love language might be different to yours. And then there's a diamond rule. Treat yourself as you would treat your best friend. When it comes to procrastination, and if you have ambition, we are so good at beating ourselves up. Psychologist Ellen Langer invites us to have this little thought idea, this thought experiment. And for 24 hours, imagine you have a thought bubble and everyone can read the thoughts that you're having about life and about yourself. Let's just say, I'm so glad AI hasn't caught up so everyone can read my thoughts. But we do this, we bump up against ourselves. And I know for myself, on my worst of days, I would not speak to my worst enemy the way I would speak to myself. When we can become our own best friend, that's when our relationship with others will improve. So, today with procrastination, what is one thing you could do to improve your relationship with yourself in terms of procrastination? What is one small action you can do to move the needle or whatever it is that you're not doing? And then, what is one thing you could do to strengthen your relationship with others? An invitation might be to simply be more engaged. Can we be with others without having a phone in our hand? Can we be with others without scrolling? Can we be fully present and engaged in our relationships, both with other people and with ourselves? M is for meaning. The Japanese call it your Ikigai, your reason for being. Now, this is where we can often get tripped up, especially if we are ambitious. We sometimes think that, oh, my meaning, is it big enough? Is my purpose big enough? It doesn't have to be huge, but it needs to be meaningful to you and your heart. What is something that inspires you to get up every day? What is something that you are looking forward to 3 months, 6 months, a year, 3 years from now? And if there is nothing that excites you, I invite you to take the time to sit down and imagine if everything had gone well, you had stepped up, you had moved through your procrastination, you had matched your actions to your ambition, what would it be that you would want to be doing? And if that really trips you up, I invite you to go back in time. When was the last time you felt fully alive, engaged in life? And I coach a lot of women who just struggle with this idea like, I don't know what brings me joy. So then sometimes it is actually useful to go back in time. Think about the last time you were in a time of your life where you felt joy and excitement. What were you doing? Who were you with? Where were you and how did you feel? And can you revisit that moment in time? I often talk about touching the future. What would that future you look like? But sometimes it's okay to touch the past. What is a moment in your past where you felt alive, full of meaning, and you were excited to get up every day? And maybe by revisiting the past, the best you of the past, you can pull the strengths and the things that still serve you in the present and use that as a foundation for your powerful future. When it comes to meaning and procrastination, it can be a difficult dance because the more we care about something, the more we're afraid that it's not going to work, or the more we feel that people might judge us. Place your attention on the people that you will help when you do the thing that you haven't done yet. Take the focus off you and place it onto the people that you will help when you put your work out into the world. And the last pillar that we have in the 5 pillars of what it means to create a life where we can flourish and thrive is accomplishments. This is a beautiful one for ambitious procrastinators because we're always so busy looking ahead, like, what is there still I have to do? What do I need to put off my checklist? And now I'm actually going to ask you to pause. And once again, look back and touch your past. Remember and reflect all those hard moments you've gotten through, all the challenges you got through, all the things that you thought you could not do, and yet you did them. These are your strengths that you pulled upon, and they never go away. We just sometimes forget about them. In fact, sometimes your strengths are so comfortable to you, you don't even realize you have them. Go back to a time in your past that when you think about this time, a sense of pride washes over you. Maybe you did a race, a 10K or a marathon. Maybe you got through a hard time in life. Maybe you helped someone else through a hard time. And now write down all the strengths that you had to use to get through that time. We feel pride when we've pushed ourselves, when we've stretched ourselves. Pride is a really powerful and useful emotion because it allows us to remember all the strengths that we have, all the things that we have done in the past to get to this moment in time. And when we are able to remember that I've already done hard things in the past, the next time we bump up against something, which we will if we have ambition or we want to challenge ourselves in life, it's a simple reminder that you've done hard things in the past and you can do them again. Accomplishments is actually a great tool to use for ambitious procrastinators because sometimes when we're trying something new, we procrastinate because we think we don't have the skill set or we don't know how to do something. But when you can actually pause and look back at everything you've already done, more often than not, you're going to find a tool that you've already used and go, oh, I've done something similar to this in the past. I might need to tweak it slightly, or I might need to ask someone's help to get it across the finish line. But many times when we can look back, it actually gives us more fuel for our future because we realize we're not starting at the beginning. We can look at the data and actually realize, I've already got 50% of what I need. I am 50% closer to my next goal than I thought I was. So the next time you feel yourself getting stuck, whether it's around ambition or procrastination or just not showing up for yourself in the way that you desire and hope, go back to those 5 pillars of PERMA and pull on one of them. Remember, life doesn't have to be perfect to be magical. P, what is it I can do today to bring 1% more positive emotion into my day? E, what is it I can do today to be 1% more engaged in my life and in my relationship with others? R, what is one thing I can do to deepen and strengthen my relationship with others and with myself? M, what is it I can do today to move myself 1% closer to what brings me meaning in my life? And then A for accomplishments. What strengths of my past can I pull into my present so I can move my future forward 1%? Life is not this or that, good or bad. But when we can remember all that we are and know that there is a science out there that is built upon building a life where we can flourish and thrive, that's when we can remember we're not at the starting line of whatever it is that you want to do. You are already so much further ahead than you thought you were. And as Tiffany Lauren Rose says, the greatest gift you will ever receive is the gift of loving and believing in yourself. Guard this gift with your life. It is the only thing that will ever truly be yours. And these 5 pillars will help you remember the gift that you are each and every day and what a gift that you are to this world simply by being here.